Ooh, good, good Lord. Hello. Okay, I'm gonna do this again. I had posted a conversation earlier, and it was regarding homelessness or talking about a culture. Now, I wanted to say that kind of reiterate and kind of focus on some of the things that I was communicating inside of that. I realized that there are opportunities to expand the conversation in many, many subjects. For that particular subject, it is for us to explain what was original goal, and it was in housing. Okay. Now, in regards to homelessness, I think that what I said was that if we look at the church have their members. So the church, some of the churches, not all of them, some of the churches may provide, let's say, um, food and clothing. Then you really do have some other churches that are very active. They go out and they speak to people inside the prisons and stuff like that. And then in regards to housing, do you think readily that the churches can apply? Yes, there are some that actually work on housing. Okay, so we could look at a variety of shelter-based churches, like I don't know how to call them, but there's many of them in each state. Okay, where they provide housing or shelter for people who are in homeless situations. Okay, we do have emergency shelters in many many states. Now, in regards to housing, I don't know if they provide direct care or if people actually go there and provide housing or housing programs. Okay. Now, the thing is, um, for for a lot of the organizations, they may not have that focus. This is like, for an example, if there is an organization that want to just focus on environmental preservation, it doesn't, even though you see land, they may not have a direct interest to talk about homelessness. Okay, so homelessness being a culture, and then I think that I also had mentioned something about addiction. Okay, then I said something about New Jack City. Now I wanted to make sure there was some clarity because I said that loose, and I don't know if I elaborated on that. But if we know that the United States government is contributing to not only drugs, but then this outcry to talk about who's helping the homeless people, and then all those resources that are there to help people who are, an array of domestic violence situations. Okay, where we're talking about mental health, domestic violence situations, where there's a list. There's not just family issues. Okay, it could be employment issues. It could be um, array of stuff, okay, that causes people to be for real, not with their families, or unable to do for themselves socially, or personally on a regular basis. Health, that may be another issue. A lot of people, as I see here in this viewpoint of addiction, you have some people who may fall um, ill. Okay, so an ailing body and ill and sicknesses and stuff like that. Do you think readily that the county or the state is trying to protect people and their health outside of just telling them? And then there's another thing. There's a whole other thing about devices and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So you have some people who are working, and then they can't work again. Okay, you have people who do get addicted. They may have lost their job and become alcoholics. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There may be here it is a child that be trying to get their mom and daddy or their grandparents outside their home, and then at that point they on the streets and stuff like that, and they're trying to figure out, and they thought the kids loved them and everything, and they're homeless. Okay, nothing else that they had worked on, and then yet we're just seeing a story being told. Okay, here it is, high hospital bills. Somewhere there, where's our advocates for those hospitals? They're in there somewhere, but I really don't see too many organizations outside of them talking about affordable health care, trying to really come, be like, okay, no, the defense is that we do need universal health care that's free for everybody. You can look at NAFTA program. Matter of fact, I was just sending a little note about that NAFTA. There was goods and services going from Canada and Mexico, and then all those pharmaceuticals, and then we can go over there and look at Europe and all that pharmaceuticals. I think that France, and another one that's really very much into medicine. Okay, so all the opioids and opioid story and all of the kind of thing. Yes, all of that. But anyway, New Jack City. I said something about here it is, the building. And so anyway, my thought about it is that if we know that we have people who are addicted, then you should not restrict them or deny them housing, okay, shelter. Okay, so that shelter, them having an adequate place like an apartment, it could be a shared apartment. I know there's some people out there that are doing this, but these people, they want them to be free from any addictions. But the people who are addicted, I think that I was mentioning that, allow them to have shelter and provide all the services and stuff in there. And then over a process or a period of time, the things that they would have, like a bona fide program that would get these people out going in different environments and different people with different people so that they could become enlightened about here it is, whatever it was they're experiencing. Sometimes when you're asking people, well, what's going on? It may be a love situation, like I had just said something about family. It could be employment, getting people, helping them, getting them back on their feet. And like I said, you get some people who just don't want to do anything, and they just content to be on the street. Like we do have tent city before we had that conversation or during the conversation of homelessness. So some people, they may have been in the military or something, and then they just posted up tents in different places. I'm talking to you about something. Okay, so those tent people, they was in the military or militia groups. Okay, that didn't have anything to do with people who just kind of bopped out of the bottom, and then they, the whole aspect or conversation about losing their properties because of property taxes. Okay, so you're right. When you think about here, there's your well-being. You would think that actively, and they do. I don't want to be like, oh, okay, these people ain't doing anything because those case managers are looking at people and they're seeing them, and they know those who are looking for to improve themselves. They're doing it, and they're trying to help them. Okay, so just to look at here it is a body of something and be like, okay, they don't want to help themselves. So this is the reason I had mentioned NAFTA. We have Canada and there's Mexico. You mean to tell me out of all of that, those people haven't done any improved here it is housing situation or try to improve the livelihood of some of these people? Just the whole conversation about relocation or something like that. But yet we have this immigration and migration. I mean, the military has posted up before we even thought about the coup that took place before Fidel Castro. There was a coup, okay, people, but yet we praise Fidel Castro. And when the United States sat over there and did all of that, and then we ain't gonna even talk about what took place in 2012 with the Navy. Okay, and now we're looking at Cuba and Haiti. I'm not gonna go there. So the United States military, they're in more than one place. Okay, you don't think that they should have a process like a little boot camp, addicted boot camp or something to help revive the people? They need income just like the. I don't know. This is a little extra out, but anyway, I mean, I'm like, no, seriously. You know what I'm saying? I mean, somewhere in there, do you think the United States should be responsible for the people? Yes. Anyway, go back into this space. So anyway, they have the building, and the building is there, and the people they move in, maybe about 3, 4 to an apartment. You know what I mean, depending on how many rooms, and then they're there, and then that little middle instead of them having on the streets. They got the little middle courtyard, and the people are able to hang out and do the things that they need to do. And they got case managers in there, and they have all those services where the people come in one little area, opposed to talking about, well, do they care for their people? Sure, we do. But should we point our fingers at the church? Yay and nay, my people. Because, like I said, those are members. What about here it is, the state and I'm going to say feudal when I'm trying to say feudal or federal, feudal, federal. Should we be pointing our finger at them? Well, they're giving funding and they're giving the funding to the state. Do you think, my friend, I just looked at something. Do you think that maybe perhaps do you think maybe perhaps the counties should look at working with one another to combat homelessness? I told you in one of those videos, the lady said, "Man, I come to this country about 50 years ago, and they still talking about homelessness." And at that time, it was looking black. And then we could sit there and talk about the Great Depression. And I'm telling you, the people are out there looking for employment. And then how we've been able to be weaned out was by language. Do you speak another language? I mean, boy, they've been using that, you know what I mean? Like on a human rights kind of tip. Do you think it's unfair? I think it's unfair. I don't think that the check the box should be there. We've had maybe 30 plus years of people talking about language to that regard. Those same people they use it to talk about, so they use that to take on a little process and cycle through here it is, that little immigration wall. What that mean? You know, matter of fact, I was they're going back and forth talking about, well, yes, the black people, the African people, they come over from the Atlantic slave trade. And I said, well, I guess when you think about Greenland, that is in the Atlantic, you know, or somewhere close. But if we're talking about the Declaration of Independence, then that means that they were up north, like Maine, Greenland, Canada. That's not where we came, that's where we were. If you want to talk about Christopher Columbus said that he came and he met Indians and he found himself in the United States. He wouldn't have went all the way around India. And I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm about to say something else. But wouldn't that be like it would be up in New England, like Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island? Okay, because if you think about it, if they were migrating, and this is the issue right now, because that's why I was like, wow, when we start thinking about migration, a lot of those people were from, let's say, from one part, they were going through Morocco and then through the Mediterranean to get over to Spain. It was just an easier cross to get across. Then if we're looking at the Mediterranean Sea and then looking at Spain, okay, and we're looking at Spain, then what would be the next country? Portugal. Now, the United Kingdom, that is sitting on water. The United Kingdom is sitting on water. So even looking at Portugal, looking at Spain, Christopher Columbus, when he, a matter of fact, they're talking about Christopher Columbus. He came from Spain and he took sail. And when he took sail and he saw, here it is, people of color, they wanted to say that he came to the United States or he went to Bahamas, and you know what I'm saying. And then he found himself way down there in South America. Now, why would you be trying to excuse us from hearing this ourselves like that? To be going way, way, way over here to the other side of the Mediterranean to talk about Egypt, because those people want to have a conversation about existence in Africa, right? I think, and then the sculptures and all that kind of stuff to say Africa was Egypt, even though we know we see Egypt in there and it's getting lighter, not by the sun, and lighter and lighter. So then anyway, you'll go through Spain, Portugal, to Spain, there's France. Okay, then from France there's Germany, and then you see United Kingdom. You go all the way up, and then now, how you gonna get from United Kingdom, Iceland to Greenland? Okay, so now you're talking about the boat, right? Now, if you're sitting there saying, okay, well, from there to Portugal to France, then you get to Norway, United Kingdom, you could hop some. As a matter of fact, I wanted to do this. I want to hop some islands. I was like, okay, get up to Ireland, to United Kingdom, get to Iceland, Greenland. They come around. There's more countries than to say, okay, we're just going to cross over the Atlantic and just find ourselves in whatchamajig. Then they want to say something about Brazil, and then coming around from Brazil, and then all these people say we were here already. Okay, so while we sitting there talking about that Declaration of Independence and talking about here it is the Europeans and they find themselves over here and Newfoundland and Newfoundland and New England and all that other kind of stuff, they're over there. Where's the history about Canada? Where is the history about Greenland? But it would probably be easier if you're talking about migrating from one place to the other. There's Spain, let's say France, Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland. And then you say, okay, well, I want to go to Finland. Then you find yourself in Finland and Greenland. And then that's not even Atlantic no more. That is the sea, Norwegian and Greenland Sea. Then you'll find yourself over there in Greenland. But that's a whole lot of water if you want to say one side. People, let's be realistic. This is the reason why they gave us the story about here it is, the Silk Road. Because on the Silk Road, if we were looking at it, it would be like, okay, well, now these people that went through, here it is, Israel, come all the way over there to Pakistan, come all the way around, and then they found themselves over there in China. Then they went over here, as we know it today, North Korea, Japan, went through Russia. Where's the information about Russia? Okay, then we see Alaska. Then you got all the little islands you can hop. There's Alaska, and then where's the information about Canada? Then you come around, you're in Canada, then you see yourself in Washington. Where's the information on Canada? But you got them folks that say, wow, 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 and we go on talking about we see here it is, the heart of the people. Honey, I would be the first woman to tell you what. Not like that. Okay. So anyway, if we're looking at ourselves or looking at the story, then okay, it would probably be easier to say, all right, you can go ahead and hop, hop, hop all the way. If you go all the way up from Finland, come back around, and then you'll find yourself in the Arctic Ocean. So why are we going back and forth about that and not the Arctic? And then what about the Pacific? You got a whole Arctic Ocean over here. Can you walk on ice? I think you can. What happened to all those igloos and the Eskimos? And yes, no, I understand. They want to sit there and call somebody else up, but you understand what I'm saying. Come on, people, let's be realistic about the story. But once you get over here to Russia, okay, on that backside, even if we were talking about Japan and you're looking at the Arctic Ocean, you could come around and I'm like, what does this have to do with homelessness? But I'm just saying. Okay, let's come on down. See if they don't want to act. They want to act right. Now we get over here to the Arctic Ocean, and we see they're talking about Canada, right? We can get over from the Siberian Sea and cross over this little swath of land over here into Canada. Are you understanding what I'm saying, my people? So instead of going around and around about here it is some other story about crossing the water, we go by land. And it doesn't take that much to cross over. Because then you'll find yourself right here in Alaska. And then there's Russia. And then you can come all the way through Russia, find yourself in Finland, Sweden, Norway. I mean, that's not that big, but it's right there. Okay, so instead of somebody, oh, and then there's the Pacific and all that kind of thing, and then yet we see they talk about Russia and Canada, and yet here it is, and then where's the relationship of United States of America? And there you go again. Well, here it is, all that colorism. Okay, so you got Bering Sea, there's the Arctic Ocean, and then when you come around to, or you can walk on water, people, meaning that it's frozen in some places. Okay, so instead, let's get the story correct. Okay, they want to sit there and talk about here it is, we on that boat. So anyway, you can get to over here from Sweden, and then there's Finland. You go over here, you go get over there to Russia, and then from Russia, you come back over here to Alaska. Say it ain't so, but it's true. Then when you get over here to Alaska, you'll find yourself, and here there's the other parts, and you'll see Kyrgyzstan, Magnolia, South Korea, North Korea, Japan, and then the Bering Sea. Did I say that already? Yes. So going back to the conversation about homelessness. I'm not promoting that we should be doing drugs or to talk about bad health or to talk about people who don't want to work or talk about people who just grazing on the earth, don't want to do anything and this, that, and the other. The point of it is that I am saying that I think that maybe perhaps the whole conversation about housing and then trying to restrict people from, let's say, a proper livelihood and things like that, I think that it is has a lot to do with the state. And then while reapplying and all that other kind of stuff, and then they sit there and talk about going through, here it is, a little religious process and all this other kind of stuff, like what set you from and all that other kind of thing. This is the reason why corporations and organizations form. And then they didn't even ask people what religion they were. They did ask you where you come from though. Like what state? Well, if you're applying, you're gonna be coming from that state. Okay? Does that make any sense? But for these people who want to be like, oh, okay, well, we was over here. And no, I'm like, honey, come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. We got, here it is, the Pacific. There's a lot of stuff you don't hear none of them talk about what was going on in the Pacific. Outside of them ones sit there talk about the wars with Japan and all them. And you got a couple of islands, you got Hawaii and all of that. Okay, if you want to talk about what was farther than the other, you can probably do more island hopping because listen, even from if you but hey, they had to get up out of there. Then we can look at Argentina. Oh yes, and honey, the Antarctica, that all sits all the way over down there all by itself, Antarctica. Okay, and then you have all of that with the Indian Ocean. Then there's New Zealand. Then when you start thinking about hopping around and going around and around with that, then you see that you had an opportunity to go from Malaysia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, get to Australia, New Zealand, and then you jump. They have a lot of little islands that'll take you right there to Argentina. You can get to New Zealand, you can get to Antarctica, and you can walk on water to get to Argentina. So if somebody else want to sit there and say, well, listen, we got facts on these different things and this, that, and the other, honey, I understand. And here it is, all the saving that we can talk about, and then yet here it is, that thought about war. You know, we could talk about prisoners, we could talk about this, we could talk about that. Lo and behold, let there be peace on earth. But if we're going to sit there and, with the Silk Road, or the people that come from there, and yet we want to sit there and say, okay, coming over from the Mediterranean, going through Russia, coming through Russia, and getting to the United States, or well, right there, you're in Russia, right there, and the whole entire Silk Road. But they didn't say anything about Russia in this history book, the Arctic Ocean in this history book. Maybe they're thinking of Arctic Ocean. Let's be realistic, people. Let's tell it like a TI is. Not the Atlantic or the Pacific, but let's talk about the Arctic Ocean. Can we be realistic? Let's be realistic. Give me some information on the Arctic Ocean. Tell me what you see in there. Be inclusive. I'm thinking it's the Arctic Ocean. You understand? You can cross over many other ways. You can get to Ireland, Iceland, Greenland, to Canada. Russia, same thing. You got a whole lot of little islands between Canada and Russia. Okay, but they went to Canada, and Russia, Canada. Hey, Russia and Canada, Russia and Canada, Russia. The Canada, Canadian, Russia. And when I was growing up, I had my little set of Russian dolls. I'm Russian and Canadian. No, I don't know. You're right. I think my little toys, they were little Russian, the little Russian dolls, and Canadian stuff, and Chinese stuff, and Indian, and African too. Anyway, what does this have to do with, here it is? There's people them, and then the states and they're trying to figure out like they don't know what to do. You understand what I'm saying? Does it make any sense to you? So anyway, that particular building, and then they know they whatever it is, and all of the man said, well, yes, I do market, or he said he does research, he allowed them to do things, get the people off the street and help them like that. I mean, I'm not saying that. Matter of fact, I'm like, why the hell you with me when you got people that they paying, you ain't paying me like that. And then no, no. But why we haven't had any of these other people being flown into the moon and all these other planets? People are willing to go. And I'm letting you know we are living on other planets, my people. They wanted to go back and forth about that little astronaut story when they sent that black man and that white woman. But I'm like, well, why they could? I'm not gonna go there. That's a whole nother story. So you got people over here. I'm like, I ain't gonna fib you. I already told you that if they were like looking at this homeless situation, like the charity and all that kind of thing, let's be realistic. We want to do we want to the movement in itself to be like we can eradicate the problem, and we can get people home, people who are homeless off the streets, and provide them shelter, okay, and housing. And to matter of fact, they even have programs for people who've been unemployed for a while. They have programs. There's funded programs for chronic unemployment. Okay, so if there was a base, which hey, there's a lot of opportunities to do a variety of things, but to get people into, let's say, a structured program, and where they want to talk about eating healthy and exercising and all the other kind of stuff to get them ready and back into the workforce. If there's people who need additional care, like healthcare services, hey, there's programs for that. Here it is. Those resources should be pulled for that. We should not see homelessness like that. I mean, enough of that already. But it's been so set to you right the thing that when we start looking at the depression and people are looking for work, believe it. But that took place during a time of war. Okay? And I understand that here it is, we see that picture like, okay, it's looking like, okay, they were all standing out there for a gravy train. A picture. Point out the dang old story. Pull out the truth. So now you're looking at 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And a woman said, I come here maybe about 50 years ago, and they're talking about homeless people then. You haven't resolved this issue yet? I said, Lord have mercy. I'm not going to go there. There used to be some comments. Like I said, I had the little Russian baby doll with the little hat. And, it was real popular to wear that little, fur hat. And the Canada and the Canadians. Don't get it twisted. I had a little not totem pole, because that totem pole is talking as a memorial pole. But for Canada, I had the little don't give me the line, but that. Uh, so anyway, for these people to go back and forth with you about here it is, why we got to be way, way over there, and we know we got these issues right here, and then yet here it is, a pool of us, okay? I don't care what kind of pool you think we're going to swim in. Outside of here it is, quicksand. Business building and development, we can work on that. As long as we got people who willing to march and rally too, we're going to make it happen. Going to the right places like lobbying. Anyway, it's enough said. I mean, again, it was nothing that I actually put out, but it was the first language at the time. It was relative to what was going on with the weather. And and I was talking about emergency housing and trying to get people located. Not so much about relocating or trying to dislocate people, but to actually provide adequate housing. But as I had said, as an organization, we could have went that route, but it was not really the route that I wanted to go. It was not aligned. It was aligned with business, but it was going in another direction. Collectively, I thought it would have been very swell to have that point in consideration made with people who had an understanding about the market collectively. Matter of fact, one model that I admired a lot, no names, but I was trying to go. Man, he had a a seminar in Texas, and I wanted to go. And this man, he has built his organization on just that, you know. And it's like, wow, we do have people who really focus on these kind of things, and you would think that we wouldn't have that issue or that problem of talking about people without shelter. I'm not talking about these little refugee camps, okay, people? You understand? Like some of the things that they having us with this conversation going back and forth about here it is, this, that, and the other. There's a lot of people who can't fly to Canada. Okay, what is the relationship with Russia? Don't be just shaking their hands and yet the people can go up there to Russia. We got blankets. And I'm not talking about that blanket. I'm sorry, that was someplace else. Nor that sheet. I'm like, who in the hell doing this delegation like this? We're not going there. But while they going back and forth, oh, it is and this and this, and then they went over there to whatchamajig it, you know, talking about relationships, and then who gonna be watching them? I don't know if we need to be trying to contact any of these, some of these little human rights groups, but we could have one. Street meat. We're trying to get there, people. Trying this shit. Anyway, I ain't do nothing today. Made a couple phone calls and all that other kind of thing. Let me get out this horn. I mean, you know, again, that goes right back into this thing, you know, with these people saying, well, we know we're out here, you know, we funky. The state, the county, and the city should be responsible for here it is that. They should have already built showers if they know that those people are out there. But then we got nursing programs and all these different kind of programs. And I've been like, me being the boss, I've been like calling all of them and say, honey, this need matter of fact, this needs to be eradicated. A matter of fact, we have let's say for an example, matter of fact, there's a little cement truck came under there. I was like, honey, they got cement companies, honey. We could have made some of those and they be doing contests and stuff like that. You would think readily that we would have been linked up with them trying to make bathrooms. This stuff is beyond belief. And I told you I went all the way to so and so. And I'm like, who coming all the way up here? And then I didn't get a chance to use the bathroom. Yeah, you know that ain't right. Do you want to hold on before I say, do you want to work? Um, did I mention that you can call me. My telephone number is 678-334-3409. Hello? And my email address is iraTlift@gmail.com. And what did I say? I said, let's come out of the Atlantic and let's come out of the Pacific. Let's look at Arctic Ocean. That's what I said. They had these people telling us all these stories like we were the only ones. Don't get it twisted. You can island hop all up in there easily. And yet here it is, we have that conversation about that boat. Now, if we looking at here it is, I know what does this have to do with homelessness? Because here it is, you got people who want to sit there and tell us other things, and we all went over there in Egypt. Now, I ain't going to explain to you about Egypt because there's some information that is there, but let's be realistic, my people. For real, when we start talking about our existence inside the history book, we're bigger than that. That's all I got to say. The story is bigger than that. We bigger than that. There's a lot of stuff going on. Okay? Account for all the oceans, but count for the ones that you can easily cross and get to. I haven't known anyone yet sit there talking about how they sailed the Atlantic. And they say it didn't exist. We got islands sitting in the Atlantic right now. We got islands in the Pacific right now. But we heard about that story what was going on with Hawaii. What about that other one? Don't get it twisted. What about this other little island? Ain't nobody said nothing about that little island and try to go over there and find out the little history about that little itty bitty island. And I'm telling you right now, it's called Georgetown and St. Helena. What you gotta tell me about Georgetown? And I ain't talking about Guyana. What about this other little island? What they got to say about Cape Verde? But that one little Georgetown sitting right there in the middle. Tell me about here. That's how they went there to that little Georgetown and all that other kind of stuff, and how we got over there to Recife. Okay, a la goat. And then we want to talk about here it is homelessness. Well, all that blending in, and we in, and all the N word. N has value. N has value. Oh, you the N word. Oh, honey, you should have known, honey, how those people are just the N word. Oh, they said nigger, 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 nigger. For a group of people to take on an argument and talk about black and brown, boy, I tell you, mhm. What does it mean? I went to this place and this man was saying, well, no, 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 they were brown. They're no, 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 no. I said, Lord have mercy, I can't be in here with somebody trying to tell me here it is about my onyxness. I mean, we have straight hair, we got curly hair, and we have woolly hair. I don't know. And in the Indian Ocean. So any of these people, when I meet you, oh, well, here it is. Oh, come on, they just all laid up. I said, well, laid up, stand up, sit up, lay down, sit down, stand down, all of it. And Catty Carter too. Do you want to work?